All right, it looks like we've got some folks going live. Happy to have everybody who's signing on to the next episode of live stream about the Pine Barrens. Looks like we're getting quite a few people on. So I'm here today with Josh Alcoba, a recent graduate of Stockton University, who is New Jersey, one of New Jersey, southern New Jersey's experts on carnivorous plants. And I've also have Susan Allen out here doing some photography for us. So welcome to all those signing on. Appreciate the time. Hope that I can entertain you. As always, just post any comments that you would like. What we're going to do today is just take a jaunt through swampy area on Stockton's campus where I know there's a lot of carnivorous plants. And we also have some specimens that Josh brought out, which we'll do some close-ups of right now once we get a few more people signing on. I see Greg's on, Susan's on. Thank you, Susan. All right, so why don't you sit them down, Josh, and we can pull this up. So, New Jersey is filled, southern New Jersey is filled with carnivorous plants. It's just great area for them. A lot of different species. Mostly we have sundews and pitcher plants.
What do you want to start with?
Whatever you want to start with, Josh.
Well, you know what? Let's start with...
Are Venus flytraps native to southern New Jersey?
They are not, however...
Oh, well, why are we starting to start with some native plants?
Start with native plants?
All right, you already got the Venus flytraps, and that's cool.
Well, actually, so here's an interesting thing. They're not native to New Jersey, but some people have actually gone out into the wetlands in New Jersey and have planted Venus flytraps. So I personally have not witnessed this, but there are plenty of posts online on forums where people say, they have seen Venus flytraps, out here. At my home, I do actually keep them over winter here, so they can survive up here just fine. This here is actually a very lovely variety called B52. It's not named after the airplane. It was literally a naming scheme like A123, B123, blah, blah, blah. And it happens to be one of the largest and most colorful. I thought this would be fantastic for the stream.
So can these grow well in like a home bog garden around here?
Oh, absolutely.
Cool.
They can survive in bog gardens in your home.
So although they're not native to southern New Jersey, they will grow down here if anybody would like to try to cultivate them.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Cool. So wait. You can't just put it down without making one of the traps go. We've got kids watching.
Okay, you're right. So that's actually the neat thing here. If you can see these little hairs, so this is how the Venus flytrap captures its prey. Is when you touch those hairs. See, I touched it once; it didn't do anything. That's how it distinguishes between a prey and something like a leaf or a twig. Touch it again, and it's shut.
So it's like smart.
They're smart plants, yeah.
Josh, are you already sweating?
It's kind of hot out here in the waders, But yeah, it's I'll demonstrate that again. So when you touch the hair once, nothing happens. It needs to be touched twice in order to trigger the trap.
Now, once it closes, does it know that there's nothing inside of it, and will it open sooner than if there were something inside of it?
Actually, yes. So in order for the trap, so you can see here, the one I just triggered, it's the initial closing phase. You can see it's still actually open a little bit, so if something tiny like a gnat or an ant triggers it, it can crawl out. The plant doesn't want to waste that energy on something so minute. So then you can see this trap over here. This has entered the sealing and digesting phase. So you can see now, as opposed to this one, which is still a little bit open, this one is now closed and sealed. It actually produces a airtight seal as it pumps in the digestive fluids.
So I think what we all want to know is if I chop off the tip of my finger and shove it into one, how long will it take it to digest?
So they don't actually do too well at digesting meat. They have evolved to digest insects. So,
okay.
So it will, it'll likely kill the trap if you were to use the tip of your finger. But let's say, for example, you're a fly and you're a reasonable size, about a third the size of the leaf, and you fit in just fine. It'll probably be between optimally 3 or 4 days to 2 weeks or so, depending on conditions.
They have a lot of different traps, so that if one trap closes, maybe another insect comes along. This is all the same. How many different actual plants are in this right now?
So the way that these grow, they actually have a bulb underground, and they continually put off leaves except during winter dormancy. Each individual plant is about 7 leaves per bulb.
So we have maybe
a couple dozen,
All right, well, let's move on to some native plants, because that's what we're here for, to talk about native plants of the Pine Barrens. Thank you to those of you who are signing on. If you have any comments or questions, Sharon asked, what classes am I teaching this fall?
This is a northern pitcher plant, specifically a northern purple pitcher plant. So this is actually another cultivated variety. This is called Jersey Girl. I believe it originated from Ocean County, New Jersey. So these guys, these grow from the bottom tip of southern New Jersey all the way up to the top of New Jersey in Essex County. And they can be found all over the Pine Barrens. This northern subspecies is actually found from about the southern end of New Jersey up through New York, Vermont, Canada, west to Ohio, Michigan. So in the spring, they typically have green colors with red veins, and you can kind of see these are the leaves from last year. They're solid purple. They get solid purple in the fall. But it's actually named the purple pitcher plant for its flowers, which unfortunately this one is not flowering at the moment.
When do they flower?
They would actually be flowering right about now, but this one is, I guess, not big enough to produce a flower right now.
All right. All right. So we've got the purple pitcher plant, otherwise known as that particular variety is known as what'd you call it?
It's a Jersey Girl.
The Jersey Girl. The Jersey Girl.
I'm
not going to make any jokes right now. All right. So what other plants do we have?
So this here, I'll start with the biggest, most impressive of the Jersey Sundews.
We might be able to find some of those out in the actual swamp, so don't dwell on this one for too long, because we can talk about that when we get out there.
So this is the threadleaf sundew. It's found only on the East Coast, from all the way down to Florida up to Canada, all along the East Coast. There's a couple subspecies. This is actually one from Florida, same species, but the Florida variety grows solid red. As you can see, it's a long, skinny leaf morphology. This one here is the spoonleaf sundew. This is very widespread. It's once again found all along the East Coast, from Florida up through Canada. It's out west. Don't recall the extent of the range out west currently, but it's interesting. This one will grow close to the ground like this, and when it's inundated in water, it will actually produce this sort of tall branching form to reach up out of the water. We'll likely see both forms when we get out there.
All right, let's head on out there, and we'll save some of these for afterwards.
Okay.
Just to kind of get a change of scenery. Josh, you can take off your backpack too.
Yeah.
Did you guys bring water?
I did.
No?
I'm okay.
Okay. Number one rule of going out into the field on an 80-degree day: bring water. Bring water. Number two rule: don't wear nice clothes like I am. This is why I can't have nice things. All right, so if you're just signing on, thanks for signing on. If you didn't hear the introduction, I'm out here with my friend Susan, who is taking some pictures, and my friend Josh Alcoba, a recent graduate of Stockton University, and then a major in computer science. And Sharon, if you're wondering, the other class I'm teaching, I forgot, is my general course called Beverages, Botany, and Booze. We're all about the types of plants that make up our beverages, like tea, coffee, etc. So, Jenna asks, do any of these plants eat mosquitoes? Josh? Yes? You can't hear you off camera when you're back there.
So,
just say yes or no, and I'll say.
do they eat mosquitoes?
I think they eat yes, they eat mosquitoes. Mosquitoes are quite large.
So they don't target mosquitoes. If the mosquito is captured, it'll eat it. There's actually a species of mosquito whose larva lives in the purple pitcher plant.
So guys, I don't know if you can hear that. I'm going to repeat back what Josh just said because that's pretty cool. So not a lot of them actively eat mosquitoes. There is a couple of species of mosquitoes that actually whose larvae live inside of the pitcher plant. If you didn't know this, pitcher plant ecology is one of the oldest ecological studies out there. Darwin studied carnivorous plants, was very interested in carnivorous plants, and it turns out that there are some unique ecosystems that exist just inside of the pitchers of pitcher plants. Organisms that find shelter in those pitchers.
Also, bladderworts will eat mosquito larvae.
Also, wait, what? Oh, larvae. Yeah. Okay, so bladderworts is another species of carnivorous plants. It's an aquatic species with a can have a terrestrial flower. Bladderworts are known for their bladders. Chester says, I found living, thriving pitcher plants in the dead of winter while the pond was frozen enough for me to walk across. I don't doubt it. It can happen.
Sarracenia Purpurea, the northern purple pitcher plant, will survive winters just fine. The leaves are the only leaves of the pitcher plants that survive for more than one season. So yeah.
So apparently the purple pitcher plant, that Jersey girl specimen that Josh was showing, maybe not that particular variety. Oh, we've got a red-winged blackbird. That particular variety will last. Guys, I don't know if you know this. You got to be real careful around red-winged blackbirds because they're laying their nests right now. They will dive bomb you. So, guys, I don't know if you know this. This is one of my most favorite Stockton's campus to go to. I go here with students. I love going with students because it's out of the way, easy to get to, and it's just absolutely beautiful. Frog hopping. So this is a swamp. Well, I guess we call it a swamp. Maybe it's a little bit more inundated than a swamp should be, and it's got a lot of open areas, so we could call it a marsh. There is a difference. Right off of the dark campus, it's very, very swampy. I know because I've hiked out here, and it's mud all the way through. Even though it looks nice, you can see how many plants are there, and those plants are all rooted in muck. That muck is just, I mean, it is so difficult to get through. But that's what makes this place so cool, is because there's so much happening here, so much life, including a great blue heron that is off in the distance, which we are probably going to disturb with my voice. So I will quiet up a little bit.
We've got spoonleaf sundews.
Do we?
Yeah.
You see them?
Yep.
Where are they?
Got a couple along this pathway here. So these are showing. So these are Drosera intermedia spoonleaf sundews. They're showing the more compact terrestrial form where they're closer to the ground. The branching ones I was talking about, we might see them sitting in the water. Usually when they're up to the plant base, they'll start producing that branching form. And they're just everywhere. Once you see one, there's like 1,000.
Yeah. So when I first learned about this, and I will fully admit that this is a great instance of when the student teaches the teacher, because I first met Josh and I didn't know a thing about he started showing me all of them, and I really did not know what I was looking for. Jessica says my audio is cut out. That I don't know. I will try.
Can anyone else hear it?
Yeah, Susan, can you test it? Josh, could you hold the stand for just 1 second? Oh, yeah, okay. So, Jessica, I think it's a problem maybe on your end. Maybe you hit the mute button. Okay, thanks, Jessica. I appreciate it. So the microphone is right up against the gimbal here, so I just have to, yeah, Greg. So I just moved it away from there. I hope that's better. So unfortunately, I'm working off of a cell phone here. Christine says audio is in and out. Is that the case?
Mine's a little bit behind, but I'll start paying attention.
All right. Well, we've got somebody out here listening to it. So unfortunately, my phone can only get so close to these plants, but once you start knowing what you're looking for, it is truly amazing how many there are, really just all over the place. Okay. Oh, I stood up too fast. All right, thanks, guys. I appreciate you telling me if you can hear it or not. I'm still learning. My phone is a little older, and so I'm trying to do this with devices that are not exactly. All right, well, we're starting to get some folks back. I apologize. Phone is a little older. It keeps cutting out, and I'm working off of a 4G connection, so all of that told, do what I can do. But thank you for sticking with me.
What are all these?
Cedars. All cedars. So while I'm waiting for some more people to show up, I won't go into the carnivorous plants just yet, but what we're looking at is just a beautiful example of pinelands swamp / bog with a whole bunch of sphagnum moss all over the place. This is all sphagnum moss, really acidic conditions for it to live in, and it also makes the conditions acidic. Fun fact that if you're ever stranded, it's so acidic that it actually purifies the water, so if you're ever stuck and you don't have a water filter, you can actually take a handful of sphagnum moss and squeeze it and then drink water from that because it's already sanitized. You're going to get some bugs and stuff for sure, but it's not any gonorrhea. Anyway, so what we're looking for is over here. We have all of these beautiful small cedars that are just trying to fight their way into this habitat right here. It's great at coming into this area, and it is really a beautiful, beautiful place. So these which ones are these, Josh?
These are intermedia.
Yeah, so Drosera intermedia. We have 3 species of sundews that are going to be represented out here. We have Drosera intermedia, filiformis, and Rotunda Folio. I'll say those again for anybody who's taking note. Drosera is the genus, and then you have Rotunda Folio, which is the spatulate sundew. Oh, roundleaf sundew. And then you have intermedia, which is the spatulate. And then you have filiformis, which is the long one, which is one that Josh showed us before. So we're going to keep on hiking. It's actually really interesting that the sundew varieties kind of space themselves out along this area.
As far as like micro habitat changes, intermedia I see everywhere, all the way out to the shore in the water, to the forest edge in shade. Rotunda Folio out here, I tend to only see it thriving in really more shaded conditions. And filiformis, I see it in shade and for some reason only in a patch out there.
Yeah, all the way out.
It doesn't seem to prefer one or the other, but for some reason how it's distributed out here.
It might be sunlight conditions, because part of this does get sunlight at different amounts. Thanks for coming back on, Christine. I see that you're here.
So we actually
Got
have
another
another, there's a tall branching form, like I was saying. You can see when it's in more wet conditions, and get taller to reach up out. We might see a couple towards the edge that really display it.
And I guarantee you that I'm stepping on them right now because it's impossible not to. They're just all over the place
Literally
here.
thousands.
And if you guys don't know, well, thank you. I see that more and more people are coming back. I really appreciate you guys coming back. I apologize. My phone is older, and it's just difficult to keep it for long periods of time, especially when we're running on a 4G connection. But thank you so much for coming back. You guys don't know, we're all in muck boots kind of wading through. Josh is actually in non-breathable waders, which is why he's probably a ball of sweat right now.
Windy.
But this is just perfect pinelands condition. Very acidic, very swampy, a beautiful specimen of an area. We'll look at Pine Barrens plants. We'll have cranberries coming up here in a little bit. All of these cedars trying to fight their way in, just enjoying the sunlight. You're looking at just a field of cedars right now. Really, really beautiful plants. Some blueberries, some pines. I haven't seen any short leaves yet, but so we're gonna walk out pretty far into this area to find the filiformis. It just so happens to be where that filiformis is. There's native orchids too that can be found there as well. There are definitely some native orchids. I haven't seen any yet. Although I have to admit, the last time that the last time that we were out, we were with those pink lady slippers. We were looking all over the place, and then we realized we stepped on them. So that.
You're gonna make somebody faint with that story.
Yeah. Well. Oh well. Thank you to those of you who are signing on. Again, appreciate it. Looks like we've got a little bit of olive growing here too. Oh, check it out. Turtle shell. Not a turtle, just a turtle shell.
Mud turtle?
I don't know if anybody knows their turtles and could identify this just from the old shell. Please do. You know, a turtle can die for a whole bunch of reasons. If you know, a turtle shell is actually part of its skeleton. It's not a shell per se. It's actual rib cage that's been extended out. One of the few interesting developments in evolution. Well, lots of interesting evolutionary developments. You sound a cranberry? Oh yeah, check it out. So we have a cranberry, of course. All right, we should be getting into some from area right now. Oh, there's one.
Oh, there they are.
Oh, some insects on them too.
Ooh, where? Oh, I see it.
Yeah.
Neat.
So this is the Drosera filiformis, and we find it out here in this part of the bog, really not anywhere else. There are a few other places on campus which we find them. Just really cool. So you see how they're unfurling. Josh, do you want to tell us a little bit about them? You're the expert here.
Right. So, like I said, this species is found only on the East Coast. It's found all the way down in Florida, up through New Jersey, obviously, and then to New York, up into Canada. This is how they grow. They grow from this base in the center, and the leaves kind of unfurl slowly until they are tall and skinny. That's where the filiformis comes in. The common name is the threadleaf sundew. You might be thinking, do these leaves wrap around their prey? Actually, the smaller filiformis leaves will completely wrap around the prey. And then at the terminal end, they can completely wrap around, but otherwise they don't have as much leaf movement. Just these tentacles, which you can see are red and have a droplet of sticky dew at the end.
Hence the name Sundews.
Hence the name Sundews. Usually only those parts will move in.
And they're sticky, so we tried growing some of them in the lab, and I of course had to poke it because that's what ecologists do, is we poke things, both living and dead. Fun story, that's how I got my wife. What? Okay, so we're gonna go back to the Sundews here. And it's a very mucilaginous, it's very sticky. You put a little bit of fly on there and it'll stick right to it. So a great place to see turtles, herons. We see them all over the place. Also a great place for ticks. Although not as many as you would think.
More cranberry over here. I'm trying to find Rotunda Folio.
So out here,
You can see the filiformis grows all the way up here into the tree line. It's actually on the base of the tree. So you can see we call that a microhabitat gradient. They're found all along this ecotone, which is the transitional period between the wetland and forest.
look at you practicing some ecology I'm pretty sure I taught you. See, I can teach people something. Yeah, so these are really kind of hardy plants in the area that they grow, but they don't grow in a whole lot of areas because, you know, when we started researching these, we were trying to figure out where they would grow, and they like nutrient-poor conditions, swampy, nutrient-poor conditions. And they can only really grow in those conditions because they're good competitors in those conditions, but elsewhere they're not. And so they wind up growing only because they're not good growing anywhere else, and particularly not good at competing else. Josh found something else. Oh, so we found Rotunda Folio, which is the third one.
So they're very similar to spoonleaf sundews in the way they look, but once you know what you're looking for, the morphology is different enough that you can just see it and it's different. The leaf is far more round or wide than the spatulate leaf sundew. Here's a nice little green one. These are, I guess, exposed to a little bit more sun. They're a little bit more red.
So they get redder when they're exposed to sun?
Yeah. You can see that in all the sundews around here. The more sunlight they're exposed to, the more red the...
Now, do you know why that is?
For two reasons, actually. Red is more attractive to insects, and it's a bit of a biologically expensive component to produce red pigmentation. So when they have more sunlight, they can produce more of it. And over time, if they're not capturing insects, they want to become more attractive to the insects so they can get that nutritional input. And the second reason is actually, like many other plants, sunlight is very intense, it's very harsh. They need to, just like humans, you know, you get a suntan, the plants produce the red pigmentation to help protect themselves.
Right, so that red pigmentation is actually called Xanthophyll. It's a particularly red pigment that is actually capable of collecting sunlight energy, just like chlorophyll. But it is also very resistant to ultraviolet radiation. It kind of dissipates that radiation. And a lot of plants have it, and you see it more and more expressed when plants are more exposed to sunlight.
Is that the same thing as anthocyanin?
That anthocyanin is another red compound.
That's what they produce.
Oh, so it's anthocyanin, not... Okay, so there's several different red compounds that plants can produce. So we're talking about why carnivorous plants are important. And, you know, one thing that, as an ecologist, I always ask is, what is the importance of a species? Ultimately, we have to figure out why species are important to make a case for conserving them. And, you know, you have to ask why carnivorous plants like these sundews are important if they're only in a very specific area. We spend a lot of money in preserving them. We spend a lot of money at time telling people how important that we should conserve them. But, ever since I started studying sundews, we've been kind of wondering, why are they so important to conserve? What would happen if we lost them? And, I've done some research on this. Both Josh and I have kind of thought about this in depth. And one of the most interesting possibilities is that these carnivorous plants are delivering nutrients to this ecosystem, insect by insect. It is a nutrient-poor ecosystem where not a lot of plants can grow because there's not a lot of nutrients. You notice that most of the vegetation out here is very small, and that's because, well, one, it's swampy, and two, there's not a lot of nutrients. Carnivorous plants don't need a lot of nutrients in the soil because they can get nutrients from digesting insects. But once they're done digesting those insects, all of those nutrients, the nitrogen and phosphorus that was in the insect, goes into the ground. And then the carnivorous plant dies and decomposes, and it has essentially sucked nutrients out of the atmosphere in the form of insect and put it in the soil. These carnivorous plants are really important to the succession of this area because instead of fixing nitrogen like some legumes like soy does, they actively harvest nutrients, use it for themselves, die, put those nutrients back into this wetland, and allow other plants to grow.
And they're very effective at it.
Josh says, in case you didn't hear that, they are very effective at it, and that is definitely the case. Not a single plant out here is that effective, but when you look at all of the plants, I mean, I'm stepping on them. I can't help them. There's tons of them out here. So how about people are sweating out here, at least Josh is about to, Josh is, okay, Josh is in the shade. Let's just take a little walk back. Thanks to all of you who are on, and I really appreciate it. Actually, after we cut out there, hopefully we don't cut out again, and again, I apologize. I'll have to get a new phone so it doesn't do that as much. If there's anything that anybody wants me to try to point out or find, please let me know. One thing that's really cool is things kind of happen fast around here. Last summer we were here and we found a dead deer carcass, which is completely gone right now. I don't think the bones know where the bones are. Yeah, over there. So things decompose really fast around here because it's so nutrient poor. Things are starved of nutrients. When there are nutrients, they grow. So one of the other reasons why I love is because you're looking at succession happening, right? This wetland or marsh right here, this is going to become land in another year or so. As all of those plants that you see out in the distance, as all of them grow every season and then die back and decompose, they don't fully decompose, they only partially decompose. And so when they partially decompose, they add a little bit to the soil time and time again. And over the years, say a couple hundred years, they will slowly start to fill in. Olin Clark asks, are there any pitcher plants in this marsh? And we have not seen pitcher plants in this marsh. There could be.
I did read.
They can't hear you. Here, I'm going to go closer to Josh. So.
No, be careful. It's very, very.
Okay, then maybe you should come here or talk really loud.
So I did actually read an old
So Rotunda Folio and the Intermedia, they look very similar.
Oh, okay.
They look very similar. One is much more closer to the ground, and the other one is sort of more up. It's probably the result of interbreeding.
Rotunda found circumboreal across the northern hemisphere, China, Russia, Europe, America, East Coast, West Coast, Alaska. Intermedia is found in East Coast of America, South America, Cuba, the islands, and so the distribution is different.
So you signed up to get a trip, come back. I appreciate it. We're talking a little bit more about sundews. By the way, I'd say that if you're interested more in sundews, I know that Josh is very happy to answer questions loves to talk about this stuff. He also runs his own private nursery, selling native Sundews. He also grows. I can put the link in the Facebook page.
Carnivorous Plants. Follow them on Instagram.
We already know that, but it is always fun to find some interest in these plants and so to people one-on-one to teach them how to cultivate them who's interested in getting the plants growing in backyards. We have such amazing thanks, Christine. Go on. Such amazing plants. Before somebody asked, are there pitcher plants? And Josh was saying that he has found some evidence that there are.
So, I did actually read an old report from, I believe, the 60s or 70s.
Some evidence that there are.
So, I did actually read an old report from, I believe, the 60s or 70s that mentioned that there are purple pitcher plants back when this was a cranberry bog. I have never seen them. I mean, I haven't explored the whole campus. There's many acres of wetlands and woods, but unfortunately, I personally haven't seen any out here. But there are at least historical records that there should be some out here.
Yeah.
That's the best I have.
I've definitely seen them around the Pine Barrens. I mean, they're here for sure, and you have to be careful. They are much larger than the Sundews, of course, although Sundews can get pretty large if you let them. But I have not seen any. I've hiked a large part of this campus and haven't seen any. They do tend to thrive a little bit more under darker conditions. No?
Sunny.
Oh, they like sunny. Well, I've seen them like sunny. Well, I've seen them under shady conditions.
They will survive.
All right, well,
but they're much
I
more
stand
numerous.
corrected.
And so that's what I was asking about the forest fires, because the Atlantic white cedar wetlands that they are typically found in, if that overgrows, it'll shade them out, and that's why we need to make sure that we practice forest fire ecology, because even these species, even Sundews as well as Sarracenia, which is American pitcher plants, rely on forest fires as well.
Well, there you have it, folks, tying it into last week when we were talking about forest fires and why we need them is because without forest fires we would lose a lot of other species like these native pitcher plants. And again, you know, as an ecologist, I tend to ask myself, well, is that important? Is it okay if we lost pitcher plants, or is it okay if we lost sundews? You know, we've lost species before. It had nothing to do with humans. A lot of things are to do with humans, but we've lost plenty of species in the history of the Earth, and humans haven't been here. So is that okay? And in reality, it probably is. You know, nature will always win. Hi, Tammy. Thanks for coming back. I'm sorry that we cut out again. I promise you guys I will get a new phone. So we were just talking about, you know, it's probably okay if we lost species, you know, but don't think of me as an eco-terrorist. Oh, there's a tick. Oh, goody. Hi, tick.
Oh, no.
You know, we could lose ticks too, right? Wouldn't everybody love to lose ticks? Except ticks and mosquitoes. Except ticks are also really important for controlling mice and deer populations. So every species is important, and it is really important that we strongly consider what is the role of species in an ecosystem before we challenge that ecosystem and potentially lose them. And it's very easy to dismiss a small plant like these sundews as being insignificant and just, you know, unique because they're pretty, but it's also really important to consider that they might have an ecological role as well. All right, guys, before my phone dies again, let's head on back. Unless you wanted to take more pictures, Susan.
I'm good.
You good? I'm walking on them. Oh, there's a beautiful one right there, right in the sunlight. You guys see that filiformis right there? Absolutely beautiful. Glistening, those little mucilaginous drops. They're definitely sticky. You can, it's hard to see with my camera, but I'm pulling off strands of them right now. Don't worry, it's not hurting the plant as long as I do it a little bit. So we've tried to cultivate these in the lab for an experiment. We were looking at how road salt affects them because, you know, adding chloride to the waters is something that we do a lot of, and results are pending still. What are you looking at?
Well, these little islands, these little clumps, the sundews,
They love them.
they
Yeah.
actually, yeah, so the seeds will actually just float on the water and eventually wind up on these little islands, the same as the sphagnum and the cedars. And that's what Dr. Stoller here was saying about succession.
Why you gotta call me doctor? So, God, only my wife calls me that when she's angry with me. Yeah, so you can find sundews all over the place. And these little patches are really important. Before I miss them, Oland asks, how long do sundews live?
That's a good question. Under cultivation, you can actually keep them more or less indefinitely because you can keep cloning from the leaves. In the wild, I really don't know. From seed to adult, it can be anywhere from 1 to 3 years. They do take a while to grow, but they're a long-lived species. They produce a winter bud, and they keep coming back year after year. Unfortunately, I can't answer that question as to the lifespan of an individual plant.
Yeah, and a lot of them related to that, Greg asks, can you find sundews in the fall and winter? And you can find them in the fall, but during the fall they start to form, what is it called?
It is called a hibernacula.
A hibernacula.
That is a tight winter bud that protects the plant from hard freezes and adverse conditions during the winter.
Right, so they'll form that hibernacula before or after they flower?
Oh, that's after they flower. They'll be flowering. They usually flower midsummer, and then
right.
you see
the seed pods come up.
Yeah.
So with these sundews, they form these long stalks that contain the seeds, or that contain pods. That each of the pods contains seeds. And if you've never seen a sundew seed, it's probably because they're so freaking tiny that you could sneeze and scatter thousands of them all over the place. But sundew seeds need to overwinter. They need to be kept cold for a couple of months in order to germinate them. So if you're planning on doing this, if you get the seeds from a nursery, you might want to get them middle of the winter so that you can keep them in a moist towel in your refrigerator cold, and then you take them out during the spring when things are naturally heating up and you can get them to germinate. So you're not going to see them. You're not going to see any of these out in nature, any of these sundews out in nature. As I can't remember his name said before, we can find some pitcher plants out in the middle of winter, although a lot of them go dormant as well, yes?
Yeah, so the northern purple pitcher plant is the only one whose leaves actually persist year after year. The leaves can persist 1 to 3 years. All the other pitcher plants, they stop producing trapping leaves, and the trapping leaves will die off, and they'll start producing flat, long flat leaves called phyllodia for the winter. Northern pitcher plants don't do that. They just keep the same short, tubby red pitchers year after year.
Call them tubby. So are pitcher plants from a bulb? No, they're from a seed. You can transplant them. I mean, if you find one and you want to put it into new soil, it'll grow.
They grow with a rhizome,
right.
So they will actually divide. But you can grow them from they do actually have like sort of a dormant bulb, so you can grow them from the whole plant or from seed. Yes.
Keep those questions coming if you're interested. More than happy to answer them. They really are tiny seeds, and if you find, there are a few native nurseries out there. Josh, do you sell the seeds?
Not currently.
Okay, so Josh doesn't sell the seeds. There are people out there that you can get seeds from.
Pretty cheap.
And it's not very expensive. I think we paid $10 for like 1,000 seeds or something. It was really cheap. Keep in mind that these seeds are really small, and the germination rate is not incredibly high, and when you go to plant them, it's not like you put a hole in the soil and plant each individual one. What you're doing is you're just sprinkling them on the soil and kind of tossing a little tiny bit of sphagnum moss on top of it, if that.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Was that a heron?
I think so. Yeah, we just saw a great blue heron fly off. Sorry, guys. my voice drives them around. It's so melodious that they can't stand it. So to any Stockton grads that are out there listening, or that may be listening after we cut off, congratulations on graduating. Big news. Go class of 2020 and COVID-19. Such an awkward semester, but I give a big shout out to all of the students out there who made it through this semester, whether you're K through 12 or college. Congratulations for really making it. This was a tough semester for everybody, and I think that we made the best of a bad situation. What'd you find, Josh?
Giant eggshell.
Oh, it's probably a duck.
Very big eggshell.
Yeah, so probably a duck eggshell out here. Surprising that it's all the way out here. Very likely something came by and scooped it up and ate it.
I was looking for that deer.
Yeah, no, I think it's gone. Even the bones would probably be carted off. So if you're still listening, you can stay signed on. We've got a few other plants to look at when we get back to dry land here. Or if you want to sign off and watch it later, I'll be posting it on Facebook later, as always. Feel free to ask any questions. Oh, it's a little muddy, and I got a water bottle in one hand and a camera in the other. So I do bring my classes out here to talk about marsh ecology. It is really kind of an amazing place. In fact, one of the things that I love to do is show people how you can light swamp gas on fire. There is so much methane being generated out at this wetland right here that it's actually, you can smell it. That's what makes swamps smell so bad, is all the decomposing stuff and the methane and the carbon dioxide that are coming up. If you collect that swamp gas in a funnel, you can actually light it on fire. There's some really cool YouTube videos. So it is just a pleasure to come out here with students and kind of just tromp around in the mud. I can learn so much out in the field than I can out in the classroom. We really have got to collect these flags here. Keep on keeping them out just in case we need to know the location of that experiment, Josh, but I think they're getting buried with everything else. Please show us how to light swamp gas on fire, says Jessica. Jessica, I would if I had a lighter. Maybe that'll be another episode, all right? I'll do that.
Got a tick.
Nice. I'll do that in another episode. We'll light some swamp gas on fire, and I'll try not to singe my eyebrows like I did with my previous class. Oland asks, how far is this from campus? Not far at all. I think about a 5-minute walk into the woods. If you know where the dark path is, it's right along the dark path. You can see it's a disconnected swamp from Lake Fred. It's right. It is right. Just to the, I guess, just to the west of Lake Fred, southwest of Lake Fred. Very easy to get to, although if you are going to go hiking back here, I do ask that you just be careful where you tread. This is a very delicate ecosystem, and I've been back here several times. I just kind of know where to go. But it is really a beautiful place, and as always, if you do come back here and you see any trash, pick it up. Maintain the ecosystem in this beautiful state for the next person to come on through. Just a general rule, whenever you're hiking through the woods, always pick up after the last person and hope that they'll do the same for you. Thanks to those of you who are still signing on. I really appreciate it, and I apologize for my phone glitching out on me. Hopefully it doesn't happen again. Continue asking questions. This is pitch pine, yeah?
3 needles? Yeah.
Yeah, this is a pitch pine. Young pitch pine. So, as Josh pointed out earlier, what we're looking at right here is an ecotone. Ecotone, it is a intermediate system between water and land, and it's an area where lots of organisms fight it out to see who wins. Organisms can always... You can find Filiformis back there? Oh, sorry.
Not quite as far in. Right around here somewhere. Where is it?
But Olin, you certainly don't have to go very far to find systems like this. It just so happens that I love working on Stockton's campus and explored a lot of this place. So if you're local, by all means, but there's plenty of Pine Barrens for everybody, and you don't need to travel so far to find them, because I guarantee you that there are plenty of places like this all around. I'm going to keep on trekking back. Yeah, I mean, when I first got to New Jersey, I'm originally from Baltimore, Maryland. No, don't go Ravens. And then I moved to Pittsburgh. No, don't go Steelers. Don't really care, to be honest with you. And then moved to Connecticut. No, don't go Patriots. Still don't care. And I finally moved. I finally moved my way down to New Jersey for this job at Stockton University, and I have never been in this type of Pine Barrens before. I was in Pine Barrens other places, but never this type of unique system. And it really is just truly an amazing place. I love working in it. So unique, so different from everything else that I've been in. I have a lot of admiration and appreciation for the conservation biologists who take care of this area. Don't have so much admiration for the ticks, which I am going to be pulling off of me. So if you're still signing on, you're still listening, next week we'll be taking a canoe ride, weather dependent, wind dependent. Taking a canoe ride up the Mullica, and hopefully finding some good marshy systems. Oh, I took a detour. So I will also say thank you so much to those of you who are new signing on. I started advertising to a few other groups that I thought might be interested in this kind of thing, and I really appreciate that you guys have those kinds of user groups out there on Facebook. Please do let teachers know about this. I'm really doing this because I know that there's a lot of educators out there who are starved for material in this weird COVID time, who need help in teaching their students about ecology and evolution. And so I love doing this just for the sake of being outside of my house, which, like everybody else, I'm quarantined up and just need to get out every once in a while. But also I really do hope that I can be of assistance to educators out there. Oh, very, very mucky. I am just walking in a sea of sphagnum. Oh, look at that bumblebee. I love bumblebees. Looking for a home right there. Hi, bumblebee. Can't get a good focus on him. James asks, are there any precautions one should take before heading out to the marshes? Well, James, I'm so glad that you asked. Oh, frog. Absolutely. I strongly recommend that no matter what the day is, how hot it is, checking in from Northwest Connecticut. Thanks, Josh. I appreciate it. No matter how hot it is, I strongly do recommend that you wear long pants with your socks rolled up, what's rolled up into your socks, so that you avoid ticks. If it's hot out, of course, wear sunscreen. There's not a whole lot of animals out here that you have to be careful of. I mean, we do have some bears, we do have some foxes and coyotes, but they're really not going to hurt you as long as you don't get in their path. But the ticks and the chiggers are probably the most dangerous part of this. And you always want to check yourself. If you can, use a buddy system and partner up with somebody who can check you afterwards. You know, nobody wants Lyme disease. There's a small chance, but it's a real chance. You know, you just have to deal with it. That's just nature. They want to live here too. They're just looking for a meal. Trust me, they've got a harsher life than you do if you ever study the ecology of ticks. But you definitely don't want to get any disease from them. And so, oh, we found Josh. Or is that Bigfoot? James, if you can think of any other precautions that are worth saying online, just so if there's anybody that chooses to go out. Of course, if you're walking in mucky areas, wear some boots. Always tell a friend where you're going. It is really easy to get turned around in the Pine Barrens or in any forest, to be honest with you. People have been known to get lost in an acre of land before when there's dense trees. So if you can, bring a GPS unit and your phone. Just stay safe. So glad that I reached somebody out in Northwest Connecticut. That's pretty cool. All right, well, before we sign off, we got a few other carnivorous plants that Josh brought, so we can just check them out in the shade, of course.
Okay, so we were talking about, there were some mentions of New Jersey pitcher plants. Once again, this is Sarracenia purpurea, subspecies Purpurea. The common name is just the northern purple pitcher plant. You can see it gets its name from not only these are last season's pitchers, by the way. You can see that they do turn a solid purple. But it gets its name not only from the purple color of the leaves, but the flowers, which unfortunately this one is not flowering. And this is the one that I said the leaves will last year after year.
What's this long one that we've got here? What's this?
This is Sarracenia flava, yellow trumpet pitcher
So
plant.
Sarracenia is the genus of pitchers, right?
American pitcher plant, yes.
Pitchers. Is this native to Jersey?
No, it's found Virginia. It's found from Virginia and southward. Although, once again, just like the Venus flytrap, there are some naturalized populations in New Jersey wetlands.
Oh, this little canopy that it forms right here.
That is called the operculum. That protects the tube from getting too filled with water and then flopping over.
Oh.
It also serves as a lure, so you can see this underside with these red veins. It's actually sticky. You can't really see it, but it feels sticky. It smells sweet, it's sticky, and that's what the flies...
Can I lick it?
You could.
No, I'm not going to.
You might actually get high. They produce a drug.
Why would you tell that to people? Now we're going to have a whole bunch of people. That's a danger of the Pine Barrens. Don't do that.
No, the nectar produces a narcotizing agent, which drugs the insect so it'll fall in. Yes, it is sweet, and...
I think that you'd probably have to lick a lot of them.
Probably.
Out of curiosity, do you know if they, if under ultraviolet light, they look any different?
They do. They actually fluoresce under ultraviolet light.
Oh, that's so neat. So if you guys have an ultraviolet light that you can bring out at nighttime, or if you have like an adapter for your camera, I bet that you could take some really amazing photographs of pitcher plants.
Yeah.
Anytime that you see this kind of red coloration, you're very likely to also get some very interesting ultraviolet photographs.
Oh yeah, it's used to attract insects.
It looks like we've got maybe one other carnivorous plant to look at, which is...
Well, this is a Rotunda Folio, which we did see out there. And once again, that is one of Charles Darwin's absolute favorite plants. So besides the origin of species, you have a tick on your shirt there.
Oh, that's a big one.
So besides on the origin of species, which is where Charles Darwin talked about theory of evolution through natural selection, he also wrote a book called Insectivorous Plants, in which he discussed many experiments primarily on this species, Drosera Rotundifolia, the roundleaf sundew. And that is where he proved through these experiments that these plants are in fact carnivorous and derive benefits from the capture and assimilation of insect prey. As we mentioned, this is Drosera filiformis, and this is Drosera intermedia, and these three are the native sundews of the New Jersey Pine Barrens, which we just saw right out there.
So it's really easy, guys, just to distinguish, bring that one up again, really easy to distinguish between the intermedia and the Rotunda Folio. The Rotunda Folio just has these much larger leaves, and then the intermedia has more upright, more spatulate leaves. And of course the filiformis is long and strandy. All right, Josh, I think that we're going to sign off. Thanks for bringing these plants. Thank you so much for giving us a little bit of your expertise. And again, if you're interested, oh yeah, check this out. If you hadn't seen it before, this picture, Venus Flytrap. If you're interested in cultivating these guys at home, they're super easy. Really, not a whole lot of work for the native species. You can just get some sphagnum moss that you can clean at home and plant some seeds in. And I'm sure that if you contact Josh Alcoba right here, he will tell you all about it. Enough to get you off the ground, and you'll be hooked. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. We're going to sign off now. Join me next week as I try not to drop my phone in the water. Hopefully, I'll have a new phone that won't die out. Thanks, Olin. I appreciate it. Catch you later.